Do you think that you can trust Donald Trump?
Well, I've had one phone call and it was a good exchange. And I always will judge people as I find them. I've lived my whole life by that, and I found him to be really warm on Monday. But obviously, we will continue to build the relationship as we go forward.
But as things stand, you're not sure at this stage that you can place your trust in him as a fellow leader.
It's a changing world, isn't it? And you just have to obviously call things as they develop.
Imagine getting a new job on Monday and by Sunday being asked live on television whether you would be prepared to publicly challenge the most powerful man in the world. That is precisely the week Andy Burnham has just had. Good day and welcome back to British Insider, because Britain's newest Prime Minister has just given his first proper interview, and it was rather more revealing than anyone in Westminster expected. Right, quick favor before we get into it. If you are enjoying this channel, hit that subscribe button and tap the notification bell while you are there. Over 90% of you watching have not yet, and honestly, it costs nothing, takes 1 second, and genuinely helps this channel grow. Right, favor asked. Now, back to Downing Street, or rather, its northern outpost.
I can't at any point say that I won't take a different opinion from him.
So you'd be willing to call Donald Trump out if you think that's the right thing?
Of course. All leaders have to do that. You have to defend your own national interest before anything else. I will always put Britain's interests first.
When your Chancellor was Defence Secretary, he said very clearly in black and white that our country would not be safe unless the Prime Minister committed to spending 3% of national income on defence by 2030. Will you make that promise to keep us safe here and now?
Well, I appointed my new Chancellor very aware of what he had said about the critical importance of defence spending. The first challenge facing us both is to ensure that the defence investment plan is fully funded, and we need to work that through as we go towards the budget later this year.
But he said there's a specific commitment that John Healey put in black and white, which was it has to be 3% by 2030. Will you commit to that yet or not?
I'm absolutely committed to what we've promised our NATO partners, and that is my commitment.
Prime Minister, thank you very much for your time today.
Defence has got a lot to contribute as well as a lot to ask of the Exchequer, and as we get to that 3.5% commitment we've made to our NATO allies by 2035, we will be setting out at the budget and spending reviews the path to getting there.
Speaking to the BBC's Laura Quensberg from Number 10 North in Manchester, Burnham was asked the question every new leader dreads: could you actually stand up to Donald Trump? His answer was refreshingly free of waffle. Of course, he said, adding that defending Britain's own national interest comes before anything else, and that doing the job properly sometimes means holding a different view to your closest ally. No dramatic finger-wagging, no cozy alignment either, just a rather grown-up admission that friendship and flattery are not quite the same thing. And here is where the diplomacy gets genuinely clever, because Burnham did not arrive at this position by picking a fight. His predecessor, Keir Starmer, spent much of his time in office at odds with Trump over the war on Iran, immigration policy, energy and technology regulation, a relationship that was, to put it politely, rather fraught. Burnham, by contrast, described his actual phone call with Trump as a good exchange, even calling the man himself warm, a rather generous description considering Trump had previously dismissed Burnham as extremely liberal before they had even properly spoken. Yet this week, Trump was singing a different tune entirely, calling their conversation very good. Think of it like two rival shopkeepers on the same high street, wary of each other at first, who discover after one proper conversation that neither one is quite the villain the other expected. But diplomacy with Washington was only half the story, because the real test of substance came on defense spending, and this is where Burnham stopped being warm and started being careful. With NATO leaders having only just gathered in Ankara this month to push allies further on funding and industrial capacity, Britain has signed up to the alliance's newer, considerably steeper target, 3.5% of GDP on core defense by 2035, part of a wider 5% commitment agreed last year. Burnham called himself absolutely committed to that goal. However, when pressed on a nearer-term target, 3% by 2030, championed loudly by his own newly appointed Chancellor, John Healey, Burnham would not bite. His answer amounted to, "We need to work out how we actually do that," which in politics is usually code for, "Do not hold your breath just yet." And that hesitation is not simply caution for caution's sake. It exposes a genuine fault line running straight through his own government. Healey himself resigned as defense minister under the previous administration, specifically because that 3% by 2030 promise was not being made. Meanwhile, Al Khan's, the armed forces minister who quit alongside him, was invited back into government this week and declined, politely but firmly noting that the very argument he resigned over remains completely unresolved. Picture inviting somebody back to a dinner party before you have actually apologized for the argument that made them storm out in the first place. So what we are really watching here is not indecision. It is a prime minister deliberately refusing to hand out promises his own treasury cannot yet cost properly. Real money, phased over real budgets, checked by real spending reviews, rather than a headline figure plucked out purely to sound impressive on the news at 10. Whether you find that reassuringly grown up or frustratingly slow rather depends on how urgently you think the threat picture actually is. And in the current climate, with wars still raging on Europe's doorstep and in the Middle East, that is very much an open question worth watching closely. Either way, Burnham's opening message to both Washington and his own backbenchers is essentially the same. Respect is welcome, alignment is not automatic, and nobody is getting a blank check, however loudly they ask for one. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.